a lot of these connections that work out that are really long-term and karmic, but you gotta listen, man. You gotta listen. You gotta slow down. That's the thing about not filling up every bar with a bunch of notes. You actually have to listen to what wants to be expressed, what wants to be said. You know, does it want to be this? Or does it want to be this? Or does it want to be this? You see, like there's a million things you can do, but you got to find it yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. You're in for a very special treat today. This program is part of our programmatic theme for the year, is revolutionary music. Every year we try to align a lot of our programming under a theme. We're working towards our 250th anniversary of the American Revolution in 2026. So we're starting with revolutionary music or music for social change. Next year we'll be doing revolutionary art, fine arts and visual arts, or fine arts, visual arts for social change. And then 2026 we'll be doing full-on revolution, social change, and having programming aligned with that. But today we have two incredible women who really deserve the revolutionary music theme. So I'm going to introduce them both, and then we'll bring them up on stage, and they're going to have a conversation. They're going to play a little music, and then we'll open it up for questions afterwards. Some of you I know are here. We just showed a documentary that features one of the two women, but you'll hear more about her life in much more detail in a few minutes. So June Millington is a Filipino-American guitarist, songwriter, producer, educator, and actress. June was the founder of the music group The Svelts and Wild Honey before becoming co-founder and lead guitarist of the all-female rock band Fanny, which was active from 1970 to 1974. She is also the co-founder and artistic director of the Institute of the Musical Arts out in Western Mass, which you'll hear more about. And I just have a fun story about June because I was fortunate enough to meet June 2 years ago. I'm on the board of the Provincetown Film Society, and we were showing her the documentary called Fanny, the Right to Rock, about her band. And I was at a reception a couple days before the film screened, and June was there. And I am also half Filipino, and she is the same age as my sister, so I started talking with her, and we had this great conversation, very interesting, talking about her life in the Philippines and her music. And then 2 days later, I saw the movie. And I said, I am so glad I had not seen this movie when I met her, because I would have turned into such a fanboy, because her life and her artistry and her musicianship is so amazing. I was in heaven watching that film. So it took me 2 years to meet her again, and I was much calmer so I could meet her in a better way. We also invited someone here who has appeared here and performed here at the Boston Public Library before to interview June. Her name is Emm Gryner. She is a Canadian independent singer-songwriter, bassist and pianist, recording artist, and author. She has released 20 albums as a solo performer and has collaborated with artists including David Bowie and astronaut Chris Hadfield. She has collaborated with many musicians and formed several bands besides her solo career, including Trent Severn and Trapper, to name just a few, and those bands were to express her very varied musical interests. In recent years, she has written a book, The Healing Power of Singing, Raise Your Voice, Change Your Life, What Touring with David Bowie, Single Parenting, and Ditching the Music Business Taught Me in 25 Easy Steps. She became a vocal and career coach and released a debut single with her new band with her partner Michael called Queen Beach Killer Cat. That's the name of the band. Emm is also half Filipino, and she is also revolutionary because after her first album in her early 20s, where she was signed to a major label, the music industry shifted in the late 90s. She was dropped from that label, and she went on to have a very successful career doing independent releases of many of those 20 albums to follow. So she was really doing everything on her own. So I would love to welcome to the stage Emm Gryner and June Millington.
I'm just honored I got to carry June's Coke out. Well, welcome, and thank you, Michael, for that introduction. I was able to watch the film with many of you for a second time, and I'm just so honored to be sitting on this stage with you, especially under this theme of revolutionary music. So I want to ask you, first of all, if you could share with us a little bit about what we were talking about before, during our sound check, the stage that was set for you in the Philippines.
Well, you know, I realized, especially in thinking about this presentation, I realized how almost in parallel with the United States, the Philippine ethos is in the sense of, you know, don't mess with me kind of deal. Because we were under the Spaniards for 300 years. So when the Americans came, you may not know this, but in 1898, Commander Dewey came and blew the Spaniards out of the water in Manila Bay. And we thought, I mean, I wasn't alive, but we thought they came to save us, which was, in fact, not the case. That was around the time of the Cuban War, and the idea was to go forth into the world and conquer it even more. So they weren't about to give the Filipinos their land back, but they were persuaded through all the revolution that the Filipinos did. So I inherited that Filipino revolutionary spirit, but I didn't realize that until fairly recently, especially with this presentation, which is really cool. And they were pretty pissed. Taft was our governor for, I believe, 30 years. He liked being in Manila. So they decided, they made a deal. Okay, you be with us till, I don't know if there was a certain date, but we got our independence in 46, so that's right after World War II, right? So we had to do a lot of fighting for the US, regardless. But I realized how much our revolutionary history is intertwined. I mean, for example, my grandfather, is the picture up? Yeah, that's my grandfather and grandmother. He spoke Spanish, aside from Tagalog, and he probably spoke another dialect. But he would get this faraway look in his eyes, and he would tell me about Jose Rizal. Now, Jose Rizal is to Filipinos who know about him like George Washington is to the US, okay? This is probably in the 1800s. He just was not gonna submit to the Spaniards. And he was thrown in jail and given the death sentence. And the night before he wrote Spanish, he wrote poetry in Spanish. And the night before his, I guess it was hanging, his execution, he wrote a particular poem, and my grandfather told me so, you know, his voice is so quiet. He wrapped it up and he put it with a candle somehow, and it snuck it out. And he would read me that poem from memory in Spanish. Now, of course, I couldn't understand a word, but I understood what the feeling was, you know, like, don't fuck with us, you know. I'm leaving, but I'm leaving my people with a message, you know, and don't give up. So I really did grow up with that. And to tell you the truth, now I'm really proud of it. You know, Jose Rizal and Aguinaldo, who was another revolutionary, and he was, I think it was his son who was alive just before World War II or during World War II. I mean, you may not know this, but the Philippines was maybe the only country in the world that had a total open-door policy to Jews during the 40s. So you could be from anywhere, and you could go to the Philippines and be welcomed as a citizen of the world. Now, that's a pretty big deal, you know. And that was under the rubric of Aguinaldo's rule.
So could you talk a little bit about coming to the US? So it was featured in the film a little bit, but what did that feel like? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember exactly. I was 13, and we didn't really quite know what moving to the US meant. I kind of have this idea of a white picket fence and a lot of white people. And we knew white was the dominant culture, the dominant race. Even in the Philippines, everyone white had a job, and you know. But when we went up the gangplank and got on the ship, the first thing I saw was this white guy on his knees, coiling a rope around something, smokestack or something, and I just stopped and stared at him because I had no idea that white people could do common folks labor. It just blew my mind. I had never seen, they were all Army officers, Navy officers, they all had the private clubs, they all had the offices that they went to that were air conditioned, probably, I'm just making that up. But, so I remember being completely shocked. I didn't know about civil rights. I didn't know about black people. I didn't know that so much injustice was happening in the U.S., including so much, I guess you could say, bad humor against Jews and, you know, other people. I had no idea, none. I thought somehow, I don't know, I just thought the United States was a homogenous country that had white milk, and people who got there somehow knew their place in society. But, you know, we were coming in junior high. I had no idea what our place was supposed to be, but I found out soon enough, you know, because we were placed, I would say, right below the Mexicans. Because, and the Mexicans were probably on par with the Japanese, who had just been interned during World War II. Now, I didn't really know about the internment thing, but I knew there was...
You could feel the energy, probably.
So I knew there was hierarchy. And the Mexican girls, my God, they had that hair, that big hair, and I understood that they put blades in their hair, razor blades, and they would fight. I mean, I just stayed away from like Mexican girls. I did not find safe harbor, in my mind, with other girls. I'm just going to say girls who were brown, so that would be Mexican, Japanese, Chinese, and so on. But the place that I found completely safe, 100% every single time, was music. That was it. I mean, I knew it the second I heard it in the Philippines and we started to play ukuleles, but it really came to me as we started to play our instruments. So on the one hand, you've got, you know, follow the drinking gourd and hang down your head, Tom Dooley. And on the other hand, you had the promise of complete freedom. And we followed that promise, I believe, into acoustic guitars. And, you know, the Beach Boys were our band, California. The Beach Boys were California's band. And nobody knew, actually, and this is the truth, nobody knew who was going to be more popular, the Beatles or the Beach Boys. Didn't take too long, but we really didn't know. Because the Beach Boys were from Southern California, and their first out-of-town gig was Sacramento. They came from the South. So being sort of, you know, entering into that world, in the Philippines, I didn't quite know how I fit in. We knew we were in a class that had money and that my grandmother and grandmother had an estate. It was beautiful. We had, you know, we had maids, we had chauffeurs, we had nice cars, blah, blah, blah. But I went to American school. And at American school, I was an outcast. And I didn't know why I had to feel that way. I had to be that way. So it was very confusing.
I find that really interesting growing up. I grew up in a Dutch farming community, and I never considered that I felt different or
You're in
looked
the U.S.?
in Canada. Yeah, I never felt different at all until you start like putting things under the microscope when people tell you things, right? Or you start feeling that energy. So you're saying that music was this safe harbor for you, and you followed that, right? It's interesting that your path, as we've now seen, has been challenging, right? So you started in a place of safety, and you moved into a really challenging place. But can you talk about maybe the early days of starting the Svelts? Did that still feel safe to you?
Well, we were rebels.
Oh.
Just like I said in my first book, I'm working on the second now. We were A students by day and rockers by night. You know, we had two different distinct personalities that we put out to the world and to our parents, actually. I mean, we did ask our parents, well, can we be in a band? And my mom supported anything that made me and Jean happy, but my dad was, well, who's going to take care of you? You know, it's very suspicious, and now I understand why, because actually nobody was going to take it. We were going to take care of us, you know. We had to learn everything. But our mom did go with us to a music store, and she signed for our electric gear and amps and PA. So that was a big deal. I mean, a super big deal. So before you knew it, we had gigs, and we had other girls that we played with. I mean, the way the band actually started was Jean's boyfriend was the bass player in a surf band. So we would hang out at these gigs. I remember one in particular that was at a bowling alley, which was a real, you know, that was a legitimate gig. And then four of us girls Jean and I had met two other girls at Hoonanny's. We played Nowhere to Run with four acoustic guitars and harmonies, and we slammed, you know. I remember that in particular. So we were already starting to mash it all up. And I think we instinctively felt that the rock and roll scene or the Motown scene that was opening up was our safe space. You know, there was like a little corridor that was opening up. Actually, I don't know how we didn't get killed, because, you know, we were four girls. How did we not get raped and murdered or whatever? And actually, I figured it out. We always hung out together. Don't mess with that estrogen thing, you know? So, I mean, I'm talking dark alleys, you know? We would load our gear in. It was daylight. But when we loaded our gear out, it was at night. And it was dark. It was black. But we always had hangers on, too, so we had boys around us as well. And we just never had that terrible experience of where a serial killer tried to get us. Honestly, I don't know how that didn't happen, because we were perfect for that. And we were so innocent. We just thought everything, you know, was nice, and all we had to do was work hard. But I'll tell you, another thing that we encountered just as normal as walking down the street in 64, 65, when we started our band, was go-go dancers hanging in two cages on either side of the stage. That was natural. It was like the go-go dancers, there they are. And they were great. Oh, we loved them. They loved us. I mean, I can't say that we said, hey, you're great, but we understood that we were all working. We were all working girls in that way. And the music that was coming pretty much out of LA and London was what gave us these jobs, you know, and Detroit. So we would hang out a little bit with them after the gigs, you know. I didn't drink or anything, but we'd sit and they'd be smoking and they would give us advice, you know, like I remember once we did a gig in Lake Tahoe, and we were so young that we couldn't gamble, so we had to walk from the front door to the backstage area, and it was a little side club in a gambling, you know, in Harrah's. And these girls said, hey, you know what? If you take your, we would always take their advice. If you take your stockings that have runs in them and you're going to throw them out anyway, just stuff them in your bras, and your boobs will look bigger and you'll get more business. Holy shit. We did it and it worked. You know, we were so innocent. And they were older than us, you know, so maybe we were 18, 19, and they were like 21. You know, that seemed, a big deal. And they were so nice. I never met a mean go-go dancer, and I mean that sincerely.
That's a quote.
you know, they were just working hard, and they loved to dance, I'll tell you that. Those women could dance.
That's really incredible. I mean, I think sometimes about, you know, the subject of being a woman in music and in the world. I've come to resolve that if you can have choice, then you're winning the game. So what was it like to grow up, you know, start the Svelts and then eventually have Fanny? With that environment around you where go-go dancers are telling you, like, stuff your nylons in your bra, which today, like, I would probably be very offended if someone said that, right? We're in that.
We were just happy anybody was talking to us, you know.
I guess I just wonder, like, what led to this independent, fierce spirit? You know, like, I read that you would, after a gig, when most times I would play a gig, I would just be like, give me a bag of pita chips and a bed, right? But you went and you practiced. Yeah. You practiced after the show, you practiced in the morning. What do you think helped form that mindset when you grew up in such a time that was, to me, I just perceive that time as a struggle?
Well, honestly, to tell the truth, this has a karmic component to it. I believe that my angels and my ancestors put me here to do a particular job. And I understood that. And I took that job seriously. And now a lot of you may not know that I'm deaf in my left ear. I never could hear in my left ear, but that didn't bother me. That didn't stop me at all, you know. It didn't cause me, I don't think, to work any harder. But, you know, with the ear thing, I hear pitch really, pitch is very important to me. And I feel like in a lot of ways I'm just taking orders. They told me, play with your sister, play Motown, you know, play rock and roll, start writing songs, tell the world what's going on. Now, a lot of my songs are actually harbingers of what's in the future. Like I have a song called Early Warning, that's Early Warning, that's what it is. And that was written when I did the Kala Chakra initiation with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, in Madison, Wisconsin in 1981. Okay, so I've been on that trajectory for quite a long time. I mean, I wrote the song Tell Them, which maybe most of you don't know, but by the time I die, maybe you will have heard it. It's a song about really the girls coming up now and IMA, that we formed IMA for them. We didn't know that when we formed IMA. We just knew, again, we had to start something, okay, you know. And, excuse me, so starting IMA and doing it for them gives you a certain amount of responsibility, whether or not you know it. You gotta toe the line. You can't really be doing a lot of drugs and fucking around and, you know, being not a good role model. You gotta be a good role model. You gotta tell them what's going on. And you gotta teach them music, if that's what, you know, that's what we're talking about. Now, I just happen to be a ravaging maniac about music. Music is everything to me. In fact, we were in Boston with Mary Watkins, a great composer. I produced her one of her first albums about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. And we were hanging out talking afterwards. And she said, you know, June, I remember one time in LA, we did a rehearsal, a band rehearsal. And I remember I played a little something that reminded you of something, some Motown song or something. And you got all excited. You got excited in a way I never saw anybody else get. And she remembered that. But that is my personality, is like if I hear something and I think it's important, or more importantly, they tell me it's important. So a lot of times people don't realize that I'm feeling stuff and that's informing me of the path I really need to take and what is important. You know, some of my songs are really talking about what's happening right this minute that I wrote 20, 30 years ago, you know. So now I'm catching up to myself, especially as I'm writing my second book, which is a complete revelation to me.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So the IMA is, as Michael mentioned, is June's Institute for Musical Arts. And I was saying to your partner, Anne, who's here, that I love that you've named that school without the word girls or women in it, you know. Yet you work so closely with them and inspire them. So I don't want to ignore the pictures. Shall we go to the next? Do you want to?
Yeah, go to the next one.
Okay. I have
Oh,
so
thank
many.
you. You've got the
Do you want to
clicker.
click?
No, please.
Okay. So, okay. So, your mother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very strong woman. Her mother, this is a very interesting story. Her mother, all the time that we were living at the compound, the family compound, which was huge, you had 2 fishing ponds and 3 lawns, and I was told continually that her mother, my Lola, would go to the southern Philippines, and she was just about the only person that the Queen would just let in and see. Now, of course, that impressed me and made me feel special. And that story had to be somewhat true because she did not ever deny it. You know, she was a very quiet woman. In fact, I know she's the one who's going to pull me in when I go to the next level, you know. So I had a tremendous amount of respect with her without having her tell me what the rules were. I just knew that she was prime, and her daughter, my mother, was also special and also very fierce in her own way. And when I heard a guitar, I was 13, I heard a guitar at Assumption College, which is an all-girl Catholic school in Manila. It was the only year we went to that school. Before that was the American school. I went home and I raved. So my birthday's in April. It must have been March, like just before I turned 13, and then we got on the boat and came to the U.S. And I just raved about this thing that I heard that was a guitar. And she made a trip to the southern Philippines, and she came back, and as a surprise, she gave me a small handmade mother of pearl inlaid guitar for my birthday, and my world was complete, you know. And I don't know how Jean got her guitar, because there's a picture of us on the ship, and we're both playing guitars for the whole ship, for the officers and all. They were all thrilled with us, you know. When we played ukuleles together, we would sing like Harry Belafonte songs or, you know, island-type songs. The family, every Sunday, we had big dinners together, and they say, Junie and Jeannie, sing us some songs. You know how it is.
Sounds familiar. Yeah. Always very loud, right?
Yeah. So that was our introduction, actually, to playing to an audience, and then there was an audience on the ship, which didn't seem to be too hard for us. And then in junior high here, we started playing. We realized that instantly we could get attention with playing our songs. Before that, we were just nothing. We were less than nothing. We didn't exist. You know, it was clear to us. So these things were obvious. So our steps were laid out for us pretty quickly, I think. From when we first got here, was so incensed that nobody knew where the Philippines was and didn't know that our Clark Air Force Base, well, the U.S. Air Force Base, had been bombed, you know, after Hawaii had been bombed within 12 hours, essentially the same day. They didn't know that. I was like, you didn't know that? How'd you miss that?
So interesting what people choose to, you know, the news items that break through. I find that saddening sometimes. You mentioned guitar, so I need to ask you about guitar. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to Fanny. And so many of your early records, the guitar tone on those records and the guitar tone that I hear live in videos and you're playing, it just, to me, communicates exactly what you've talked about, that energy that maybe you weren't able to articulate before, but that you're almost channeling.
I am channeling. I'm not almost. I am actually channeling.
Yeah, you're channeling. I guess I would love you to just almost give us advice. I look at the landscape of music, you know, boys and girls, men and women making rock right now. And I just feel that the way that you played guitar carried the message. It carried the message in a way that was loud, it was disruptive, it was, you didn't care. It was almost like there were no consequences to your playing. I don't know if you feel that.
Well, nothing could get worse than being invisible, so everything was up.
So
Let's just be playing, you know.
yeah, expand on that a little bit. Do you feel like it was that sense of invisibility?
Oh, yeah.
That I'll just let you take it away before I keep rambling about your amazing guitar tone and your guitar playing. And then maybe we'll play a song after that.
Yeah, that would be great. You know, guitar tone is something that was led to and told, you got to do this in just kind of an intuitive way. But I didn't know that right away. I didn't know that I should play lead guitar in Fanny in 1965. It took till,
You didn't know that.
Yeah. It took, I was a fierce rhythm player, like Jimi Hendrix. He preferred rhythm guitar to lead, although, you know. But let me just do an aside. I remember Gene and I didn't get turned down to grass till 66. I graduated from high school. I tried to drink some booze at the party that night, and I just got so sick. That was it. I realized, oh, I can't do that. So boom, that was over. But, you know, other stuff would open up for me, and I would wouldn't really hear voices. I would just understand things that we had to do. Now, wait a minute, what was I talking about?
So when you say other stuff, are you talking about drugs?
Well, drugs, we tried, yeah. Grass, we tried. I remember one time trying to cross the street in San Francisco when Hey Jude was a hit. So what year was that, right? I couldn't figure out how to cross the street. I was too stoned. And it scared the hell out of me. I thought, no, I can't do this again. I'm not going to spend my life being confused and scared and I can't do it or whatever. My whole attitude is develop a place where you say to yourself, I can do it. You know, so that invisibility thing, I would try to do what the boys were doing just a little bit, and I'd notice a great guitar because we did a lot of gigs, so I would ask other guitarists, would you play me a little bit? And that was dangerous because a lot of, they assumed I was coming on to them. They never in a million years saw I was actually serious about learning how to play guitar, right? I had to be coming on to them. So that was a tough, little trapeze act. But I got used to doing that. By the time we got down to LA, we had tried whatever drugs were available in the Bay Area, which were quite a few. We took at least one band acid trip, and that was fun. That's in the book. That is really fun.
Do not do this at home?
You can take it home. We have it here.
You can get the book, but not the acid.
Yeah. That's right. There's to me, getting high is just, there's too many minuses because it's easy to get lost. But regardless, I know a lot of people have done ayahuasca, etc. And I actually did love a little bit doing some peyote, but not I never could get quite into it because of my ear, because of my equilibrium. I mean, that's why I have my little Coke here. It's just to settle my stomach and make sure I don't get dizzy. So I had to be very attuned to my physical condition all the time, actually. I tried to let go for a while, but, anyway, by the time we got to LA, we are talking 1969. We moved to Fanny Hill in May of 69, around Jean's birthday. We got our record deal in fall of 68 with Richard Perry, who heard us play the night after we played at the Troubadour, and his secretary heard us. I think he might have even sent her down. So we auditioned for him in LA the night after we played that famous, let me tell you, nobody believed we could play. They didn't believe it at all. I mean, when we got to the Troubadour and it was like our time to do our little thing, we went, oh, you little girls, you just set up your little amps and do your little thing. And I think that was the best night ever. We weren't even called Fanny yet, but I think that was our best night ever, because what happened was the entire club just erupted, and they weren't just clapping, they were screaming, they were stamping their feet, and then they all got up on the tables and stamped their feet on the tables. Now, I've never had a reaction like that.
Wow.
You know, that was the tip top, the tip top most of the, and the guy came running up to Jean, and Jean's got like a long neck, you see her on playing the bass. And he said, play some more. And she said, well, you said just 5 minutes, She made him beg. And I remember we did take a little piece of my heart. We weren't really doing, original songs yet. And take a little piece of my heart, probably Somebody to Love, stuff like that. And Addie was the lead guitar player. But I remember after the set, I looked at her and we just nodded at each other. Fuck yeah, we did it. These people understand. They understand that we can do it. So we can do this again and do it again. Now, Addie quit the band, manager troubles, etc. Anyway, she quit the band within 3 or 4 months. And now it was just me, Jean, and Alice, the drummer. Now, that's pretty fierce. That's a strong, somehow we all just managed to keep finding good players, And they said, okay, Addie's left the band, which I didn't even know Addie left. That was news to me. And so now you have to play lead guitar. And I was so shocked. I mean, I said, let me walk around the block and think about it. And I did. I did think about it, yeah.
What went through your head in that walk around the block?
Well, Fanny Hill was just above Sunset Strip and had pretty clean air. And I walked around the block and I said, June, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. You can't do it. No. You have to do it. You have to do it, And I finally got enough of the angels, enough voices to say, you can do it. See, so that's what I needed. I needed permission from them and from me. I really did make a decision, and it was a tough decision on my body and my spirit to take on. I knew what was coming up. And it did come up because we had already had, when we set up to do a gig, all the boys would be in front. They'd be sneering at us, literally sneering at us, and the girls didn't sneer, but the boys would, and they didn't believe at all that we could play. But within 5 minutes, they fell in love with us. And it happened every single time. You know why they fell in love with us? Because they love the music, they love to dance. That's what they came for. They didn't come to sneer at us. But the second they saw us, they had that knee-jerk reaction. And then the second they heard us, they had that other knee-jerk reaction, which is, hey, we can dance to this. We love them. It just happened just like that every single time.
To me, that's a power of music, is that you were able to take people from a thinking response to feeling within like minutes, right?
Right.
And I did ask you about advice. And as you were telling the story, you were talking about having that moment with yourself and your guides, your angels, about whether you should play lead guitar in Fanny. I think that's what I'm asking you is like, when we live in this world where we are so swayed by social media, swayed by other people's opinions, and kind of unable to think for ourselves, for you, it led you to a path where you became a revolutionary musician and you paved the way for all of us, basically. So when it's that important, like, how can people follow that inner voice when we are so kind of bullied into following social media and other people's opinions?
Well, you got to get off social media at least for 5 or 6 minutes. Because you'll never make a good decision if you're thinking about what other people are thinking of you. It's just not possible. So I always recommend meditation, but I've been a meditator for a long time. Meditation just means you just disengage and you go with your breath, neither praise nor blame. And the middle path is down the center, and you're not worrying about if you're going to be praised or blamed. They're both equally dangerous. Yeah. That's just the first step.
I guess it's a whole process, but
I
carry
mean,
on.
the process of getting involved in Buddhism is very intense, because just like I had to have that talk with myself, can you do it or can't you do it? But, see, I knew already what was going to happen to me if I took up lead guitar and made myself go into that position that was so much more public. And with rhythm and singing, I wasn't going to call attention on myself. Playing lead guitar would be like if you were in Vietnam and you were in that, some squad or something. You were point, and you were the first person who would get shot. That's what happened to me every single time, because we had a lot of guys stop by Fanny Hill, to see if we were any good, And the first person that they wanted to shoot was me, And in the beginning, I was sort of on par, but after a while, we did so many gigs. Gene and I would just look at each other and go, let's just get them out of here. They're not saying anything. So that was the valuable thing that we learned. We learned that you actually had to say something when you played. You didn't need to take up every single second of space. And how did we know that? In part because we were a dance band. The Svelts were a dance band. We were not trying to express ourselves through our groovy songs that we wrote, And having that, allegiance to, let's say, for example, an arrangement is so important. So if you're going to do a song like Walk the Dog, which we did for like a year, that song's directly correlated to Play Like a Girl, which we're going to play in a second. The arrangement to that, we played that arrangement, and that arrangement is really tied into "That My Girl, What You Wanna Do." It's directly related to that. So all these licks, those licks are in Play Like a Girl, because there's only so many notes that are in rock and R&B, so it's how you kind of, arrange them. So I kind of got the hint. And when I met Lowell George, now this is really important. We had been in LA, I don't know how many months, and I went to a jam, actually at Addie's house in the Valley. I didn't know who anybody was going to be there, maybe 7 or 8 people. So 2 women, me and Addie, and the rest are guys, right? Okay. And there was this guy, he was standing there, and he was, I don't know, I didn't think of him as like very good looking, but there was something about him that was an attractive energy. And what he would do was he had his feet splayed, and he would rock back and forth. And when we got into a groove that we both understood was like, hey, this is hip, we looked at each other and we understood that we knew what was going on. And that's how Lowell and I met, and how he became such a good friend, and he ended up teaching me a lot of hints about slide guitar, and I introduced him to Bonnie, or I introduced Bonnie right to him, so there's that important lineage. But he was a warrior of tone. I cannot overemphasize that. Whenever he would hear about an amp that was somewhere that someone was making that might have some sound that he was interested in, oh yeah, he would go. I remember one time he came to Fanny Hill, he rushed in the door and he said, "June, you got to come with me." It took me to a hardware store, and he said, "Check this out. You can get the spark plug pullers, and they fit you right. You can pick the one that fits your little finger, and you can play slide with that." He would get he turned me on to Elton John. He was really such an interesting guy. I loved him to death, and he's with us a lot at IMA. I firmly believe he's one of our guides. Still helping me with writing my songs and finding my little licks. And he, I'll just tell this one story really quickly. we were so crazy about learning, and he came over one time and he said, June, you absolutely cannot be here in LA trying to be like in a band that's going to make say something or make a difference. You have to know the blues. Now, I didn't know anything about the blues, because we didn't hear the blues in the Philippines. Maybe Heartbreak Hotel, but I didn't know that was a blues, really, based on the blues. So he brought over this big thing of hash, but that hash was good. And the records, Howlin' Wolf, and not B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf, and who would be the other one? One of you guys knows. There's only two guys who like really. No. Yes. John Lee Hooker and Muddy Waters. Well, we got completely into it, or out of it, and we disappeared. And I totally understood from that moment on what the blues is, and I tried to learn what I could, but I understood the essence of the blues. But he came over the next day or a few days after that and said, we can't do that again because the band got so mad at me. I missed our rehearsal. Little feet, of course. But he would take the time, he and Skunk Baxter, and also Elliot Randall, but Elliot lived in New York, so I didn't get to know him real well till I moved to the East Coast. But listen, Elliot Randall, Lowell George, and Skunk Baxter, that's enough. That's a big arsenal. That's a lot of ammo. Yeah. And I listened to them. I watched them. I mean, it's not like, they would sit down and show me stuff. And whenever Lowell found out about an amp, he'd drag me around to go hear it, But I would have to figure out what I needed out of that amp. He didn't tell me what it was. So it was taking me to the water to drink, but I had to drink it. And I'll never forget, I think it was Lowell who said to me one time, you have to let go of everything else and find your own thing. Because I thought I had to play like everybody, Eric Clapton and Joe Pass, which is that's a big chunk to swallow, And I couldn't do that, so I had to let go of that kind of consternation or whatever, and just find out what it is that I, June Millington, was needing to express. Now, when I listen to my solos on the first album, they have that sort of intent that he put into me. There's a ship that sails the ocean. But that guitar solo, even though that's kind of a shanty song, ship shanty song, that solo is well crafted. It's a good solo. And so that was by the first album. And so it was about a year when I got from really not playing hardly any guitar to playing my guitar solo on Badge, which is pretty fierce.
Yeah.
And I got to that because of the intent of where I placed my intent. I set my intent. My angels and my ancestors all said, yep, you're doing that. We brought you here to do that, so do it. And so I really had that almost battle ethos, because I have very much that male energy. I'm going to fight my way through it. And you going to try to kill me? Which was the attitude that the boy guitar players had. They wanted to kill me. And I knew it. But, you just turn up and play like a girl, like the line says, and play like a girl. If they tell you you can't do it, you just turn it up and play like a girl. So what is that? That is your own thing that you need to find in the silence. It's not in the loud sound. You need to find it in the silence because the loud sound is easy to have. But what are the lines? What are you borrowing from the ages? And so you have to be smart about that. That's my, philosophy. You have to be smart about which particular fruits you're picking and putting them in a salad.
Speaking of that salad, shall we
Yeah,
play
yeah,
a song?
let's do Play Like
Okay.
a Girl. I was telling Emm that I am not playing out so much anymore these days. I mean, the last time I played a gig was in, I think, May with Toshi Regan. Are you familiar with her? We did that at IMA, and that was a honking gig.
Even though you said that, you put on your guitar and you just shredded like a badass. So I don't think a hiatus actually matters to June Millington. Can we give June a huge round of applause? Give her some energy before we play. Maybe give me some energy. We haven't really practiced.
You know, but that's better, I think, in some cases. So I was telling him that, you know, the opening guitar lick is actually was pretty hard when I wrote it. But I said, so I'll probably just do the ballad version of the guitar lick. And she said, I think that's really good because then we can get into the song. Yeah. So here's the ballad version. Tell you girls a story, I won't tell you a lie. Anything you want, you can do it just fine. Come on. Come on and rock the world. Nice. If they tell you you can't do it, you just turn it up and play like a girl. Two little girls swimming, staring out of the sea. Water touching China, it's as blue as can be. Come on. Come on and rock the world. If they tell you you can't do it, you just turn it up and play like a girl. You can clap now if you want. Hey, what's that sound? Keep your engine running, we're just messing around. Come on. Come on and rock the world. Where's that lick? If they tell you you can't do it, you just turn it up and play like a girl. Four little fish swimming under the sea. One said to another, let's go surfing upstream. Come on. Come on and rock the world. If they tell you you can't do it, you just turn it up and play like a girl. Last verse. You can take it to the beach, you can take it to bed. Take the words of music you've been playing in your head. Come on. Come on and rock the world. Oh my gosh. If they tell you you can't do it, you just turn it up and play. Tell you you can't do it, you just turn it up and play. Tell you can't do it, you just turn it up and play like a girl. Hey!
June Millington.
So you see where that whole funk thing is, you know? Just a walk in the dog. Just a walk in the dog. You know that song? If you don't know how to do it, I can tell you how to walk the dog. You can buy that record. And it's really, it's a great... It's a great sort of training, because if you just play the song and you don't do like go off on licks like I just did. You'll get that training in how to stick with the discipline in the blues. You know, it's so important in my estimation. Somebody wrote me an email about 2 months ago and said, have you ever codified your style in a way that you can share it with people? And I said, actually, no. But the content of his letter was so interesting. And he said, because I figured out a couple of things about you. And one of them is that you know how to not fill in space. That when I'm playing lead guitar in my band, I'm just like filling in every space and I can't stop, kind of. And I said, all right, I guess, I wrote to a friend of mine, I sent him a copy of the letter. He said, I guess it's time for you to do your guitar master class. And I think I am going to do it, and I'm going to do it on Zoom. And so if you're interested, anybody can join. The way I have it planned really is that you could join at any level. It's going to be sliding scale for 2 hours, 25 to 125 or more. If you want to donate $1 million to IMA, please do that. But, you know, it's going to be down to almost like, check it out. So this little lick, I could do it like this. It's not even a lick, it's one note. Or you can do, get it? That's another one right there. Or you can go. Well, I just went into a little bit of rhythm. But that's what Jimmy did. That was his place where he loved to be, you know. So that's what I'm going to do. Anybody can kind of get into that. You can hear the difference, and a lot of it is just where you're placing your pick. Right? Right?
You can just keep playing if you want. No one's going to complain about that.
I'm going to start it next month.
Oh, we're...
6 or 7 more minutes before we go to Q&A. So you want to do one more song?
You want to do play?
Yeah. Can I just ask you a really important question before our next song? Mm-hmm. You were, you know, maybe it'll go past 7 minutes, but charting uncharted territory like you did with Fanny. Okay, like I posted about our event today and someone on Instagram said, I just found out about Fanny last week. They're so awesome, right? So you have all these new people finding out about your band, but at the time you're doing something you didn't even know it was revolutionary probably, right?
Well, I knew to me that it was revolutionary because number one, it was hard. Number two, I took so many pot shots. I am not kidding you when I'm telling you that guys wanted to kill me, but not kill me physically, kill me with how they played.
Right.
And I knew it. So that was a danger.
Okay, that's really interesting because maybe it leads to the answer for this question. When we're if like someone wants to start something that is brand new, there are no rules, whether it's music or something else. Is that the sign that they're in the right place? That you're getting that kind of animosity from people?
Probably, and you actually have to take up your courage and just ignore all that. That's the thing. You have to hear what it is that you want and find out what are the logistics for getting there, right? It's not just like, you know, what are the real logistics? What's the small path? And that's why when I say, like, play like a girl, this lick, I'm sorry. Well, that's not so easy to do, but it is based on the blues. It is also based on what I'm singing. Well, come on, rock the world. So I changed the lick so it went with the vocal. So those are all those little things you have to follow the imperative of what the song is calling for. You can't force it onto the song. The song tells you what's happening. I mean, I know that sounds a little esoteric, but it's 1,000% true.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if you don't follow it, you're, I don't know, taking a chance that you're gonna get hit on the freeway by some lick.
Well, honestly, I think anytime I've followed my intuition or let the music guide me
Yeah.
or follow the energy of people,
Right.
it's always led to great places, you know?
Great
It's-
places,
When I make decisions, and maybe you feel this way too, that are from fear or trends,
Yeah.
never works out.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to take up too much of our time. You ready to do this?
Yeah, so we're going to do a song called I Love Your Hair. And this was written around 2000, 2001 when my hair really was started to change to what you see now. But originally, this is really cool. I didn't even have to go to a stylist or anything. I had flames on the side of my head, you know, in the form of my hair. My hair just did it.
Just the formation of flames?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then it started to just like spread, but it took like 10 years or so. What am I, 77 now? And how old was I in 2000? I was born in 48. You do the math. 50s or something. And I remember one time, I'm going off on a tangent, but I remember one time being in, not Arizona, New Mexico, and we're checking out a hotel, and this Native American girl says to me most respectfully, "Can I touch your hair?" And I said, "Sure, but why?" She says, "Because my grandmother had that same color hair, and I used to braid it for her, and she died, and it's the only way I can get, you know, feel close to her. So I let her touch my hair, let her braid my hair, you know." So there's a lot of these connections that work out that are really long-term and karmic, but you gotta listen, man. You gotta listen. You gotta slow down. That's the thing about not filling up every bar with a bunch of notes. You actually have to listen to what wants to be expressed, what wants to be said. You know, does it want to be this? Or does it want to be this? Or does it want to be this? You see, like there's a million things you can do, but you got to find it yourself. And in order to do that, you have to have trust in your guides. It just kind of goes on, because it's pretty deep. You don't do it by yourself, people. You don't do anything by yourself. You're with your guides and with your... Anyway, so this is the story of my career as seen through my hair. Okay? Because people used to just rush up to me in the store or anywhere and just go, "I love your hair," and then dash off. I mean, I kid you not. It's probably happened to me at least 100 times in at least this lifetime.
That's a lot of times. Yeah, let's do it.
I got age, I got stock funds, same page. I still say right on. In the 60s, 17, before disco, before Queen. But I saw a woman walking down the street, the year 2000. How can that be? She said, I like your hair. It's turning white. I said, where? She said, I love your hair. I love your hair. It's turning white all on its own. Well, that's alright, 'cause it's all homegrown. It's got a mind, it's got sense. It don't need me, it just happens. Hanging nice, just like before. When I was 20, playing rock and roll. Before computers, before the Gap. Before Madonna, before rap. People say, hey, how you been? You're looking good. Say, what's that color in? 'Cause I love your hair. I love your hair. I know there's a whole part in there. Oh, it feels good. It feels good. It feels fine. It feels good and it's all mine. It feels great. I feel it now. Feels wonderful. And it makes me want to grow. And I say, I love, I love, I love your hair. I love, I love, I love your hair. Let's go. This is the jam part. Here we go. I make mistakes, make amends. Well, it's endless, time bends. That's okay, 'cause I'm getting older. Pretty soon, it'll be all over. The young ones say, you must be wise. Their heads, now that's a surprise. They change the color of their hair like we used to change our underwear. 'Cause I love your hair. Oh, my hair, that's right. I love, let's go ahead and end it. I love my hair, yeah. My hair, talking my hair. I know, that's good. My hair, here we go. Talking. There you go. Thank you, Emm. Yeah. She's got that radar.
I just want to say, I thought about what I really, really want to say to you on this stage, and I just want to thank you for all the times that you've struggled, suffered. Maybe there are times you're just like staring up at the sky wondering, why am I doing music? And just thank you for all those times.
Thank you. I just want to say that, move on very quickly to IMA, which is a nonprofit organization for women and girls in music. It wasn't my idea, but I heard the voices. So I was at a meeting at Olivia Records in 1976, the year I started playing with Chris Williamson. And they were talking about what I call the airy-fairy ideals that they had for women and music and how they were going to go forward. And I thought, they said, well, it's going to be all egalitarian what we're forming, and no one's going to be more popular than the other. I didn't say anything, but I'm like, oh, right. Because music is a popularity contest. It just is. You can't get out of that. So, and I heard this voice somehow during the context of this meeting. I heard this voice say, yeah, but who's going to take care of all the girls coming down the pike, down the road? And I said, noted. I heard that, but I can't do anything about it right now. Then I was with Ann in 1985, 86, 10 years later. And not only did I hear more voices, but they started to come into my dreams. And I was in San Francisco hanging out with Angela Davis, who, was a friend, and she had just written a book on blues women. Very interested in that, of course I was too. And I was telling her about these voices, and she said, well, get going. And I'm like, me? No, not me. I'm not an organizer. And she said, yeah, but they're talking to you. Oh, my God. Wow, I had to do it. But then I started to talk to Ann about it, and she told me, well, later, but she agreed to start this organization, this nonprofit organization. And we did it with Angela, and we did it with Roma Barron, who was Oh Superman. She produced Oh Superman by Laurie Anderson, right. And I didn't know her. I called her up, and I told her about this idea, and she said, yeah, I'll do it with you. She's still on the board. So it's a big deal. We started working in California. I had no idea. Neither one of us had an idea of doing these rock and roll girls camps, which are actually the kind of sexiest thing we do in the public's mind. But it started as, we had zero money, so we were able to use part of somebody's house in Oakland, And we did workshops where we could. Studios would let us use their spaces. So little by little, we worked up to where we are now, which is in Goshen, Massachusetts. We're 20 minutes from Smith College. We do our rock and roll girls camps in the summer, teen, preteen, and we have a recording program. We have actually 2 recording studios. Now, I say it so fast, it sounds like it was like no big deal to erect it and have it manifest, but it was, I thought it was gonna kill me a couple of times. But we've done a really good job, and the point is to have this institute that will be able to carry forth after we're gone, to help musicians understand like their position in the universe, their position in life, how, and this is very important to me, how when you become popular, really the most dangerous part is believing in your own myth. And I've seen it so many times. It's almost killed some people I know. That's very, very tough. So keeping your own kind of footing in the popularity contest, but still being able to, create your music and have help. And so we've got a lot of equipment. Like I said, we have 2 recording studios. The barn has become a performance center / teaching space. So I invite you all to come visit IMA. We're just 2 hours from here. IMA.org is where you can find us.
Awesome.
Hi, thank you. It's kind of a comment and a question. As a half Filipino American, I just want to say thank you for the things that you faced. Part of me is sad that you faced as much racism as you did. Mm-hmm. Part of me is grateful because it did push you towards music. But some of the things that came out in the video, like it helped me. I didn't get to have those conversations with my dad before he passed, so it helped me understand some of the things he faced in the 60s when he came over. So thank you for that. And I am curious, how did Fanny hit in the Philippines? Were you guys popular over there?
What's interesting is I went to the Philippines when I turned, I believe it was 60. I wanted to go back and experience just maybe one more time the Philippine culture, and I stayed with my aunt and uncle. Obama had just been elected, and I did a couple of small gigs at small clubs, and people came out of the woodwork, and their big question was, why didn't Fanny ever play the Philippines? And you know what I think is really the truth? Derek Taylor was a Beatles press manager for many years. There were other people, but he was like one of their closest friends. In fact, when we did record at Apple Studios, we would have Sunday lunch at his house, and usually Ringo and George would be there. They were very close. And the point being that when they did play the Philippines that one time, they really felt like they were going to get killed because Imelda Marcos, just out of the blue, invited them to a party the next morning after their show, the next morning at the Palace. And she just assumed that they were going to do it. And they said, no, we don't want to get up and go to a party. And they were chased out of the country. They were literally chased to their airplane. They didn't even bother to take their money. They really thought they were going to be killed. And I think that is what influenced our managers in our record company never to have us play the Philippines, which is, of course, now I highly regret that. But at the same time, by the same token, I didn't insist on it, which is kind of interesting when you think about it.
Hi, thank you so much. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm going to watch the movie. So
You can buy it
forward to
on
that.
Amazon.
Okay, good. I was going to ask you where I could get it, but I'm just curious. How did you learn to play guitar in a year? What did
Lead guitar.
Literally lead
Yeah,
guitar?
there's a difference.
What was that process like?
That
How many
process-
hours a day?
Yeah, every single day. I woke up and that's all I did. What I did actually was I chose solos that I felt like I should learn. And I would sit by the record player and just, take the needle thunk, just play a little bit of it, thunk. So I would learn solos that I thought I should learn. Now, I have to admit I started out with pretty easy stuff, easy to me, George Harrison, for example. He doesn't fill up a lot of space, but his choice of notes is really good. So that was great. So that's how I did it. Every single day, I would say 8 to 10 hours a day. I didn't think of anything else because I knew that if I didn't do that job, I was going to get killed. When I say kill, I mean metaphorically. And I didn't want to die in that way. I wanted to live and I wanted to succeed. I wanted to show that it could be done, in some fundamental way. I wanted to show that it could be done. So, and my friends, the guys who were on my side really helped a lot. Now, it just so happened that I was in LA, and so I got the cream of the crop. I mean, there was also Jesse Ed Davis, who, Native American, and he found out about me and he called. He came over to Fanny Hill a lot of times with his wife, which I really appreciated. And we would just sit there and jam and laugh and talk. This is before he played the solo on Dr. My Eyes. So that means that you got to go listen to that solo on Dr. My Eyes. And by the way, that solo was played while he was tuning up. It's true. You can actually go and find Jackson telling that story. So by the way, we knew Jackson. We knew all the people in LA who were coming up. Jackson wanted to be a star for sure. And he worked really hard at becoming that. He left his duo with Ed Doheny and so on. I know a million stories. I know where all the bodies are buried from like 69 to 73.
But now I just want to thank both June and
Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.